We're talking about the Warrens in the Warrens case file. Okay, the first one is Annabelle.
The most haunted and infamous doll in history.
Is the little girl facade a facade?
So, if you are teaching fear-based things, you are creating fear surrounding the paranormal. They lovingly call this house the Conjuring house due to the movies.
But there's this thing right now and it sounds like...
I was watching our screen here and I could see it out there.
Sorry, they're talking about the Warrens.
And because of that, it creates what we talk about in other videos of poltergeist activity.
It was something that was facilitated by them that threw her across the room.
Was the haunting of Amityville, Long Island.
Oh, so it's showing him his sister, but like half of her face is missing and distorted, like terrifying.
But I think he brought something that the dark thing in the basement could puppet around.
Hi, I'm Liv.
And I'm Em.
And we're your PsycKicks.
Wow, I forgot.
You did.
Because I'm supposed to say hi. It has to be the same so that I can do weird things in the future, you know?
Future.
We're talking about the Warrens in the Warrens case files. If you don't know who those are, they are one of the first ghost hunting teams to exist, and their names are Ed and Lorain Warren.
Pew pew.
So, if you don't know, we're psychic mediums, and we like to do weird things like psychic chicken, where one of us does all of the research and the other one does nothing.
Oh wait, you're cucking me, because I never want to talk to the Warrens. I didn't think about this.
It's an interesting thing that I have written down because it's not what I thought I was going to talk about.
The Warrens are interesting in and of themselves.
And we're going to cover some of their cases here. We've covered a lot of them already that I didn't even know were their cases. So I'll put lovely videos up here as I give you summaries of some of the cases that they have done. Because apparently they've done like 10,000 or something. It's like a ridiculous number. But there are 7 of their famous cases that we're going to talk about. But probably not all in this video.
Cool. Why not 69? 420.
Probably because of the 7 wonders of the world. Okay, what do you see for the things I've told you in secret?
So, Em told me that she covered 7 of the 10,000 cases that the Warrens have covered.
Yeah.
So I wrote down 7 things. And I don't think I can talk to the Warrens, nor do I really necessarily want to. Sorry if you guys think that's mean or whatever, but I don't think I want to. So this lady stepped forward who's kind of like a secretary and possibly...
Does she have white hair?
That's Lorain Warren.
No, there's someone else.
Oh, because I feel like
Lorain has gray hair.
I feel like Lorain is behind the secretary woman. I see the secretary woman, she's older, but she has her hair dyed brown.
Is she very, like, Virgo-y?
Yeah, she's like a secretary.
Okay, I talked to the same lady.
Does she look like a librarian or a secretary? She's wearing like
she's
a brown...
really old.
She's wearing like a brown pencil skirt with like a burgundy top with like a brooch and earrings. And her hair's short and brown.
I talked to the same lady.
Cool.
Because I'm like, I know it's not Lorain because she talks about the Warrens, not about herself.
But
So.
I feel like Lorain stands behind her because I don't really want to talk to her. So.
Okay.
Plus, they're probably like, you don't talk to me, my people talk to your people. So, anyways, I wrote down 7 things. And it's funny because this secretary lady shows me them like in Scooby-Doo theme. Which is fun. So, the first one is, there's a scary lady poltergeist. Like a, what do we call those? Banshee women?
Okay. Which is associated to what?
One of the 7 cases.
Oh, that's what these 7 things are?
Yeah. These are the root of the cases, not the names, but like what happened in each one, I think. So one of them, the first one I wrote down is the scary lady poltergeist / banshee woman. The second one is something about the desert. I don't know. Something about sand. They make me feel like it's the desert, the sand, a museum, something like that. The third one is an angry man in a farmhouse. I feel like that's an angry soul of a man, and it's located in a farmhouse. I put the tunnel of terror. So I don't know if that's like a tunnel in which like a train went under or cars or something like that, but there's like some sort of haunted tunnel. You know, like how the tunnel's haunted in Jujutsu Kaisen?
Okay.
It's like that. There's another one, and I was like, this sounds silly, but there's like a cabin in the woods. They showed me woods, and I was like, I don't know what's with the woods, so I was like, cabin in the woods? That sounds really like cliche, but I'm here to write it down. The next one is they made me write, well, I saw like a Ferris wheel, and I was like, there's a haunted Ferris wheel? So I put Ferris wheel of terror / haunted amusement park. And then the last one is baby issues or troubles. So I feel like there's some sort of possessed child or infant of some sort.
Okay, I was expecting the general one just to be the general consensus of them and what they do, but it's interesting that you're trying to guess the cases because we've covered most of them.
Oh.
So, like, Annabelle, The Conjuring House, Amityville Horror, The Devil's Rocking Chair. That's why I only gave you 3.
Ah.
Those are the ones that we haven't covered, because Enfield Poltergeist we've also covered.
Cool. Well, was I close with the topics?
No. Maybe the first one. But yeah, that's why I gave you a general consensus, and then I was going to give you specific cases to cover.
Oh,
I thought I was trying. What the 3 down there are.
I thought I was trying to cover all the 7 cases, like things of the cases.
No, just general of them. Not general of their cases.
Oh,
I feel
the Warrens?
Yeah.
I know too much about the Warrens.
So, Ed and Lorain Warren, they met in 1944, and they met when they were teenagers. And they also both came from religious households, which will be important later of my synopsis of the things that they do. But Lorain is a trance medium, and she figured out about her gifts when she was about 7 or 8, which is interesting because also Liv did the same thing. But she said to have seen auras around people, but she never told anyone or talked about it because she was afraid that people would think that she was crazy. However, they met each other when they were about 16, and it is said that Ed thought that she was different. He knew that there was something special about her. The way that Ed Warren got into the paranormal thing is he grew up in a very haunted household. So what was in his house?
Me. Surprise.
He became a demonologist in specifically one of the religious nature. So what is in his house?
Is that the man that's in the farmhouse?
I don't know.
The scary man?
I mean, you might be talking about the Conjuring house. Because technically that's a farmhouse.
I think that was the Banshee woman.
Dude, I don't know. Because it's not one of his famous cases, so clearly because he was a child.
I don't know.
Mm. I
think it's interesting when people tell us that they grew up in haunted houses and they're like, I just learned how to block it out. And then they tell us their haunted stories and I'm like, that's up! So anyways.
They learned how to block it out? I mean, we talked to Amanda and I don't know that she learned to block it out.
I've talked to other people though that have told me their haunted house stories and they're horrifying. And I'm like, that is scary. Good choice blocking it out. I would do the same thing. Because I just never experienced anything like that. So when people tell me that they experience things like that, I'm like, that's a horror movie. That was your life.
They make movies about that.
I know, it boggles my mind because I've never experienced anything like that, I don't think.
So the way in which Ed and Lorain Warren started doing this paranormal stuff is Ed would go to people's houses and he would paint the outside of their house. And then he would give the painting to Lorain, who would go up to the front door, knock on the door, and give it as a gift to the owner. And it opened up conversation about how their house was haunted or not haunted. So that is how they started getting their name out there and started doing paranormal investigations. So in 1951, that is when they had their first child, their only child. Her name is Judy. And in 1952, a year later, that is when they founded their psychic research corporation. It's called the New England Society for Psychic Research, the NESPR.
NESPR. You gotta say it like that.
And it's one of the oldest ghost hunting research organizations in America. So again, they're one of the earliest ghost hunters. They're the ones that actually figured out different equipment to bring into locations to get actual evidence of hauntings. So that is where the research came into their the things that they do. But everyone should know, if you know of Ed and Lorain Warren, of their occult museum that they started underneath their research center in the basement. And their occult museum...
Why is it always in a basement?
Because you don't go into the basement.
That's
Why would they put it on the first floor?
If they can build a goddamn box for Annabelle, they can build a space that's not in a basement to put the scary things.
Well, they...
like a greenhouse.
The occult museum, if you don't already know, is basically the place in which Ed and Lorain Warren would take the haunted objects and would put it in this room so that they would be safe from people touching or whatevering them, and it would be taken away from the person that it was currently haunting and all of that stuff.
Currently haunting.
But at the same time, Ed and Lorain Warren, or at least Ed, kept a lot of these things to show other people to prove the existence of ghosts, because again, the research side was important to them. So, do you want me to go through each one of the case file names and you tell me what you know about them?
Yeah, since my things that I wrote down last week are a potato.
Okay, the first one is Annabelle.
The most haunted and infamous doll in history. At a glance, Annabelle looks like an ordinary Raggedy Ann doll. However, it is anything but ordinary. This doll is said to be responsible for the death of a young man and for causing pain and suffering to anyone that challenges it, never holding back.
Who touched Evan before?
I know, I'm trying to find a human soul. There's a man and a woman standing next to me, because I feel like something's trying to scratch my back.
Oh, well, ignore that.
I know. It's like a really bad idea for them to be talking to things in here.
Isn't that what most paranormal investigators do?
Yeah, but this place is very different.
Yeah. They show me it's like night at the museum.
It's way worse.
They're watering it down for me.
Uh-huh.
One of us has to be cool.
Like the last place that we did, Zach Baggins Museum, that is night at the museum.
Yeah. This one's just darker.
Because you can see the things crawling out of the walls. And it's not just Annabelle. Things are afraid of Annabelle. Like the dark things in there are afraid of her. And there's lots of screaming. So Annabelle was one of the first major cases of the Warrens. It happened in 1968. It was essentially this Raggedy Ann doll that was given to a student nurse, and it was a gift from, I believe, her mother. And according to the Warrens, they report that this 28-year-old nurse who received this doll noticed that it started changing positions. Then her roommate started finding like parchment paper with the written messages saying things like, "Help me, help us." As if it wasn't strange enough, the girls claimed that they didn't even have parchment paper in their house, so they don't know where it came from. And next, the doll started showing up in different rooms and was supposedly leaking blood.
In the walls oozed green slime. They're slash slinging.
Unsure of what to do, the two women turned to a medium who said the doll was being occupied by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins. So is Annabelle Higgins a thing?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, because I get a scary red face that's like, yes, it is. And I'm like, okay. Sorry.
What?
Is the little girl facade a facade?
What do you
growls?
mean? Oh, you seeing the little girl as a facade? Yes. They told me that before we even started.
It's like an anglerfish.
Yeah, because
but the end of it is sentient.
They had a medium read into the doll when they figured out it was haunted, and they thought the reason why this doll got its name Annabelle, they thought there was a little girl that died in a car crash, and Annabelle was this little girl's name, and she attached herself to this doll. Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
Okay. Yeah, because Gojo just I heard like this ethereally guttural growl, and Gojo, if you don't know who that is, he's one of my spirit guides, he's hilarious, showed me an anglerfish, but it was this huge fish in this even bigger, large mass of dark water, and on the end of it, he's like claircognizantly telling me that the light on the end is that
facade of Annabelle, the little girl, the Stewie Griffin. And that growl that I heard is the fish itself.
So that's when Ed and Lorain Warren took an interest into the case and contacted the woman. After evaluating the doll, they came up to the immediate conclusion that the doll itself was not in fact possessed, but manipulated by an inhuman presence. How did they figure that out?
It was me. What?
How did they figure that out?
That it was manipulated by an inhuman presence?
Yeah.
A seance?
Is that what they're telling you?
Yeah. They, like, asked a question and, like, wrote things down on a board or, like, something weird and satanically fun. Yeah, Annabelle is not actually possessed by the soul or demonic entity that likes to say that it's a child to make people think that it's safe to let it in their home and be friends with them. It actually is the demon, and the reason it has such a sadness and demonic horribleness to it is because there was a little girl who used to own the doll, and she passed away tragically from what we can allege as psychic mediums from, like, medical malpractice. But the little girl passed, and people didn't mourn her passing in a, I don't know, it was just it brought a lot of sadness to everything. So the grandparents kept the doll, and the parents kind of just didn't think about the kids in the same way the grandparents did. So all of this sadness and sort of like desperate hopelessness around it sort of manifested into the doll, which allowed for this dark evil thing to attach itself to it as this sort of foothold from a lower dimension. And now we have weird, scary shit about it. Yeah. They said that the things that they did to the doll after they took it bound it to the doll so it can't leave now. Because we always say that it uses the doll as like a handhold because it can't necessarily keep itself up this high vibrationally within our dimension of physicality. And she's like, yeah, it started out like that, and then they did their rituals and whatnot to it, and now it can't leave, so it just sits there angrily. It can't get higher and it can't get lower.
This is all the stuff that I researched that I didn't actually find in my research. This is the stuff that secretary lady told me about them, because it's interesting that they're the first ghost hunters, or one of the first ghost hunters, because they created a research facility that created different ideas surrounding the paranormal. And they would go out into the world and they would teach people about the paranormal, what they can expect, all of these different things. However, they have the religious background, and the religious background usually causes fear in association to these dark things, demons. So it was a lot of times a fear-based way of teaching about the paranormal. So because they were one of the first research organizations surrounding paranormal activity, I feel like they were the people that created specific ideas surrounding paranormal activity. So, for example, Ed was one of very few of the demonologists to exist at this time, so they didn't have a lot of this information about the paranormal that we do now or today. So that's the reason why they were teaching about it, but they were also the ones that were trying to find this information, which is a little bit weird or a little bit skewed because his title is literal demonologist. So I feel like a lot of the things that were happening surrounding them were in regards to the beliefs that they have about spirits and about the dark entities. So if you are teaching fear-based things, you are creating fear surrounding the paranormal, and because of that, it creates what we talk about in other videos of poltergeist activity. If you create fear around a certain topic, a certain place, a certain person, you're going to create manifestations of that dark entity or the dark energy in the location in which you are investigating at. So, for example, one of his famous cases is the Conjuring house, and if you guys want to hear our entire synopsis, it'll be in the eye over here or down in the description below. But during this video, both Liv and I saw this like dark entity that was like white, scary, like had this huge mouth thing.
Sorry, that really freaked me out for a second. That's all.
Are you upset someone's in the window?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to, like, ground myself to the trees outside. Because they're making me, like, sucked into the video. And I have this really weird, gross white thing that's, like, yelling at my face right now. And I'm trying to, like, make it go away.
What is it?
If you go back to the little picture that someone drew on the side of the wall that looks like the circle with, like, a little hump thing that goes down, it looks like that, but it comes out of the wall and it's, like, thick and gray, and it doesn't have a face. It just has, like, a head that opens up, and it's, like, sticky in its mouth, and the only word I can describe it is maw. But it's like... Yeah, a maw is a way, like, a gaping maw is a word to describe a giant scary mouth.
Oh.
So, like, when people are like, I looked into the maw of the dragon, it's, like, into its mouth, and you're like, I might get eaten. But there's this thing right now, and it sounds like, and it has, like, its mouth open next to the side of my face, and it won't go away. So I'm just quietly dealing with it by talking to your tree.
Ah. Yeah, because I keep seeing things in the reflections of the shiny things. So I was watching our screen here and I could see it out there.
The maw thing that I'm talking about? Or just what?
It's white, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it like walked past the door.
Yeah, I'm trying to ignore it. I'm really actually quite freaked out.
So the fact that you say it's in here now is interesting because that's why I was like, what's over there? Because I definitely saw a white thing past the door over there. I don't know if people who aren't psychic mediums can perceive something like that, but
yeah, do you hear
I
it?
saw it.
I mean, I think I made a pretty good noise about it because I scared myself making the noise. I was like, don't make the noise, it'll make it more real.
So after Annabelle, the next big case that the Warrens covered was with the Perron family, and they lovingly call this house the Conjuring house due to the movies. When Roger and Carolyn Perron moved into the 200-acre farmhouse in Rhode Island, they had no awareness of its dark history. Many former residents had died under horrible circumstances. A few were murdered, others were hung, and the Perrons came to believe that their spirits were still present in the home. Some were benign, and some would play with the children or help out with chores. Others were sinister spirits that would relentlessly torment the family. Ed and Lorain Warren were brought in to help in 1974. However, their presence allegedly escalated the haunting to the point where Roger eventually asked them to leave. So what happened, the reason why they were asked to leave, is they were there for several days to prove the existence of the paranormal in this house, that the house was haunted. So they were doing this seance with Lorain Warren as the quote-unquote medium, because she is the medium. And they were doing the seance in what people refer to as the seance room. So they had Carolyn Perron, Roger Perron, and then the two Warrens were sitting at the table doing the seance. And when they were doing that, Carolyn Perron, who was the most affected by the haunting, she started like talking in tongues and supposedly was lifted out of her chair and thrown across the room. At that point, I think they were trying to like do an exorcism or something on her, and that's when Roger Perron was like, please leave. You are not helping, you are making it worse. And that's when Liv and I were like, there was a weird thing that wasn't normally in the house that threw Carolyn Perron across the room, and that was awful.
And it's the same entity that named the Conjuring films, because the Conjuring films were supposed to be called the Warren Files.
Yeah, the Warren case files, which is what we're doing.
And literally this demonic entity, this white maw monster, was like, actually, we're going to call it the Conjuring because it's about
funny.
me.
Do you think that one of those two scary things was the thing that threw someone across the room?
No.
Allegedly? Okay, I don't either.
No, those are just
They're making me
now.
No, they're making me think about the Warrens again, because I just asked the man who was sitting here, and he goes, no, the thing that threw her across the room was white, like the thing that's looking at you, but it's not the same thing. It's different because it was able to go upstairs. The stuff that's in the basement is in the basement. It doesn't go everywhere else. That's why they have the other things.
Yeah, it was very different when the Perron family was there because there were less beings there to protect them.
Sorry, they're talking about the Warrens. They're making me remember what I said when we did this house the first time.
Yeah.
And it was that Edward Warren came in because he has the, like, demonology understanding.
Yeah.
It was something that was facilitated by them that threw her across the room. It's not that this thing was attached to Edward Warren. It was that his presence being there is what summoned it there. And the house is the reason that gave it enough energy to do what it did. However, it's not there anymore because Edward Warren left. And the things in the basement can't leave. I don't know, the old man just showed me, because, like, I see him as this big, giant, square-chested guy. Mm-hmm. And when he comes in, there's just, like, wind. I don't know what this gray thing is. It freaks me out. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
She said that, and there was a gray thing, and then I asked, and the guy showed me Ed Warren, and I'm like, okay. I don't know. That makes me uncomfortable. Is the dark thing that we see underneath the Conjuring house actually this gray thing that threw someone across the room, and that it's confusing us with that?
Mm-hmm. It's an aspect of it.
Because she's talking about how it's been waiting for someone like her to have more energy to talk about things, but also the things in the house don't want you to know about it, so that's why it likes things that you can't talk to it about. Is that why he's just the one that gave it the power?
Mm-hmm.
Just like her.
I don't know if this is real. But I think he brought something that the dark thing in the basement could puppet around. Does that make sense?
Maybe. I don't know what to believe because it's so much like
there's so many dark
shit.
things saying things about it, so that's why we're confused. But they're showing me in our last YouTube video about the Conjuring house, we talk about this really dark, heavy thing that's in the basement that is like sitting on a portal, and this thing has the ability to me, I perceive it as like a sound or vibration that goes throughout the span of its essence. And when it does that, it kind of like, almost like brainwashes the things that are in the house that are a little bit dark. So there are human spirits that are a little bit dark, so it manipulates them, and it does the same thing to the little dark things that are kind of like stuck in its aura or its essence. So Ed Warren dealt with demons a lot and dealt with like dark things a lot because he's a demonologist. I think he had something with him, and when he went into the house, this thing was affected by the thing in the basement. Does that make sense? Or do you see something else? I mean, I know I'm still asking you the same question.
Yeah, I don't know if we're really gonna know because it's confusing.
The explanation that we have about that entity during that video is there is a really dark entity within the Conjuring house itself. However, when Ed and Lorain Warren were called for this investigation and for this case, they went into the Conjuring house and is said to made the activity a lot worse than it actually was beforehand. And we believe that this white, weird, dark entity thing was associated to Ed Warren.
Oh, that thing, not the thing in the basement, the thing that he conjured.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot. Does not look like
No,
Tom
the
Tom.
really scary thing, not the thing in
the one that
the Conjuring
threw
house.
the lady across the room.
Yeah.
It was actually from him, not the house.
Yes, because he creates
Remembered.
so much fear associated to the spirit realm that a lot of the things was almost like in an echo chamber. So when they saw a spirit, they're like, that's a demon! I know it's a demon! Even if it's not a demon. So the Conjuring house was literally a buffet fest for the thing that lives in the basement, because they're like, you know what'll be really cool? This lady can see things, and they do a lot of stuff with demons. So I'm gonna make her see a human spirit that looks like a demon so that she thinks that it's caused by this thing. So they put all of their energy towards the wrong aspects of me. Makes sense?
Yeah. I forgot about the conjured thing, which is why it's literally called the Conjuring house. The house did that.
Yeah.
Plot twist.
But yeah, this dark entity wasn't there prior to Ed and Lorain Warren coming because they created the fear associated to this location while they were there. So it made the haunting a lot worse. So we just went to the Bel Air house and we talk about poltergeist activity there because when we went there, there was no activity or very little. And it's because we weren't putting our scared energy into the weird things that are already there, into the weird poltergeisty activity.
We literally have to do dumb shit for stuff to happen.
If you want to freak us out, or make us freaked out, or be scared, you kind of have to do a little something.
Yeah,
I think those people are scared coming in, though.
This is kind of a two-way
I
street.
think it's their own things talking to them. That's what I mean. Like, when they're like, you have to like create your own reality, they're literally creating their own reality.
Wow.
So it's the things that follow them that are what they're catching in the house. The house is just the amplifier for it.
What do you guys watch on TV? On, like, this house? What do you guys watch on YouTube about it? Who do they talk to?
I don't remember.
What do you mean?
Do they talk to the souls that are here?
Well, they talk to they talk to other souls that were outside of here.
But not like Edwin or like the lady at the house?
Not the ones that I watched, no.
Those ones didn't know.
And those are the only ones we've talked to.
Exactly.
So
That's well, like you were telling me, it's like you have to like almost call out the dark things or talk to those to get anything to happen.
Yeah, but we aren't talking directly to anyone.
Exactly.
So when people come here, they're experiencing their own darkness.
That's probably why I was seeing a cloud instead of a shape of a person, because usually when I see dark things, they're more solid.
Did you hear the like thump?
Yeah.
That was a yes. Sorry.
You're recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So that's why we're not getting activity, because we don't have scary shit that follows us that we manifest into things.
So a lot of the places that I feel like they went to, they say it's demonic, and they talk about divination tools and things that go against like the Catholic or Christian religion, and saying that this is how you conjure demons, this is how you bring demons to you, but it's because they have a misunderstanding of what the paranormal actually entails. And it's because their belief system is based upon the religious fear aspects of demons are bad, evil, they're going to cause doom to our houses. And then they have the association of they get brought in to the big cases where there are actual, like, people being thrown across rooms, demonic activity.
People already have their own demons that are influencing them.
Yeah.
And when I mean their own demons, not like attachments, but their own manifestations of the negative aspects within their life or that they perceive of their life. And when they come in and just amp it up worse, you're just adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, so a lot of times they did help because they created a idea that the thing was gone and now things are better. But at the same time, if they did that at the wrong place, like the Conjuring house, it made it a lot worse because they are putting their own fear and expectations into the location itself. And also teaching about this creates that fear mongering as well, which is why we believe this weird white scary thing manifested or was conjured is because they were a very famous couple doing this paranormal activity that taught that demons were bad. So it created fear, which is why this like thing that should be a poltergeist of like Ed Warren is actually this solid being because he has created the fear that it needs to be more solid. Makes sense?
Yeah, it's the persona of his being.
Of his fear manifestations that he has created from himself and others.
At that house, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So another one of their cases is the Amityville horror case. And during this case was interesting because the first people that lived there that like caused the weird things to happen, that was when the murder of the entire family happened. Go check out the video. We talk about all of the details there. So, perhaps one of the most well-known cases to be investigated by Ed and Lorain Warren was the haunting of Amityville, Long Island. In 1975, the Lutz family had moved into a quaint suburban home where only a year before, mass murderer Ronald DeFeo Jr. had killed 6 members of his family. During this first 28 days of their stay, the Lutz reported swarms of flies, banging noises, disturbing entities, and witnessing the levitation of family members. Witnessing the levitation of family members. That is just such a casual thing to just put in a sentence. When the Warrens were asked to cleanse the house, they brought a local TV crew with them. Why? That's what I'm talking about. They took photographs of the house, one of which seems to show a little boy standing in the shadows with glowing eyes, which is fun. You can look that up on the internet. It's interesting. Lorain has said that the Amityville house case is the one that haunts her the most, which is interesting. Because I feel like it's poltergeist activity, which obviously they made worse if they brought a TV crew there. So the dark entity in the house does not want anyone to know about it. It doesn't want to be pushed out of the house, because I feel like it has the ability to be like, I don't know, casted out. I feel like it doesn't have that much energy because it's like very skittery and glitchy. But this man keeps telling me that it's like a mimic or a ditto. It like pretends to be or look like the things that are in the house. So this Kelso man, what's his name? Butch? The killer?
Yeah, Ronald Jr. DeFeo.
I feel like he used to see his sister in his room with him, even though she wasn't there, but she would be really scary. Because I drew a picture of what they show me. This is what she looks like, and this is what it shows him.
Oh, so it's showing him his sister, but like half of her face is missing and distorted, like terrifying.
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying that the scary thing would show his sister to him like that even though she wasn't in the room?
Yeah, I feel like he would see his sister in his room and he would hear voices about the things that he sees, but the things that he sees is manipulated by this dark spirit.
Ah.
He was seeing this thing, this like manipulated face thing when the murders were happening.
Butch was?
Yes.
Okay.
Because of this little dark skittery thing that likes to mimic what other things look like.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes it more real. But this thing, every time I think about it, I see it in this like black and white room that is like either in the basement or on the first floor, and the room, I feel like it's black and white, and the door always slams shut, and when the door slams shut, there's like red that like falls from the ceiling. But what's interesting is after they moved out, the Lutz family then owned the Amityville Horror House. And that is when Ed and Lorain Warren were called, because they were having weird, strange activity happening. And I feel like, again, it is associated to the people that are there, because now there's a new family living there that claims that it's not haunted, that things are not flipping upside down. And I feel like it is because of the people, the Lutz family that was residing there had a lot of those inner demons that Liv was talking about, that created the hauntings.
Because when we covered the Lutz family, our idea of like poltergeists and hauntings was not what it is now. And I think the dad Lutz was like abusive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense.
Because I think that's what we were talking about there too, is because he was not a cool dude.
Yeah,
which is
he was
why
like in the mafia and abusive to his family.
Yeah, which is why he like weirdly was in that room, and it made it worse because that's where the thing like resided.
Mm-hmm. He had his, office in the basement. The guys had their mood swings, and one day when he was in the basement, he discovered a room that was not included in the original floor plans of the house.
That's the room that it's in, that I keep seeing. Great, awesome.
It was a small, tiny room
that
the dog refused to go near.
Yep.
Would literally break the collar itself to get out of wherever the dad was trying to get the dog to go into. This weird, undisclosed cubby hole, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the cubby hole was painted red.
Oh, God.
Floor, ceiling, walls, all of it was red.
So Ed and Lorain Warren came in and found all this activity because of the people that were actually there creating the haunting. And it's like human, physical, living people, not the spirits. So I don't think I'm going to go through any more of the cases. So if you guys are interested in more of the case information, go to our podcast and I'll cover maybe all 7. We'll see how it goes. But in regards to the Warrens cases, like I just said, it's like they're in an echo chamber and they created a lot of fear surrounding the paranormal. So it's interesting that they talk about different things associated to religious aspects. So a lot of people nowadays are very fearful of using different divination tools like tarot, Ouija. And I feel like there's a lot of associations to what Ed and Lorain Warren say about it, because they're like, if you do this, you are opening yourself up to demons and dark things. But our perception is the only way you're going to open yourself up to those things is if you believe that it's going to happen. Because it's interesting that they use ghost hunting equipment. And my perception of ghost hunting equipment is very similar to like divination tools, because you're asking something to touch a physical object or manipulate a physical object. So it's interesting that they don't have the same perception of the equipment that they're using to gain evidence of the paranormal, but they have the ideas surrounding the divination tools. And I feel like it's because it was skewed more by religious beliefs that they had in regards to the fear tactics of demons and dark things and all of that stuff. But I feel like a lot of their cases were made a lot worse based upon the things that were actually there and what they expected to be there. So a lot of times when things are being thrown across the room, the Warrens would be called, and it's almost like they expected dark things to be there, so that's what they in turn got. So a lot of times they may have made it worse rather than better.
For example, we had a reading literally last night, and our client asked us if there was something in their house because their sister experiences things. Long story short, the thing in the house is that the house that they live in was built on a farm, and there was an old man that likes to stand in the corner of our client's sister's room and like wag his finger at her because he doesn't like the fact that there's bunnies in the house. He believes that bunnies are farm animals and they believe they belong in a hutch outside, not in the room. So he just sits there and disapprovingly stares at them because he's upset that there's bunnies in not even his house. So sometimes it's as little as that. He's just like, why you got them critters in here? They ain't serving no purpose. That's shameful. It's dirty. And they're like, is there a spooky ghost in my house? Yes, but also he's not spooky. He just doesn't like that you got buns in the house because he's an old dude.
Yeah, so it creates fear around a situation that will actually cause the weird manifestation things to come forward. But that is Ed and Lorain Warren. What did you guys think? Do you guys want to hear all of the cases? Because if you do go to our podcast, it's on all the streaming platforms except for Pandora, because we don't like Pandora. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
I'm excited for the podcast. I want to know what the case files are.
Especially the werewolf one.
Yeah!
You were very wrong, because you have too much ego about it.
Yeah.
I knew I shouldn't have told you that it was a werewolf case.
Yeah.
So, we'll see you guys in the next one.
We are your PsycKicks. That's for you, Patrick. You even watching this? Probably not. Just like all of our podcasts where we schmack talk about you.
That cost extra.
Okay, well, the Enfield Poltergeist.
Yeah.
I kind of already know about though, because we covered it in Poltergeist.
Okay, is it a poltergeist? What is it? But it's because they were the
Was
first.
there something going on with the parents of the 2 children?
Yes.
In the Enfield Poltergeist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the secretary is telling me that that is the reason the poltergeist manifested, is because of them and their children is what magnified it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
She's a single mom. And they moved to this house. So it was emotionally hard for the kids.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, that's a big piece that they missed. And if they did focus on it, it wasn't for the right reasons. She's like, they didn't focus on it.
How did they know it was a poltergeist versus not a poltergeist?
She says that they didn't know, just like we didn't know, what the definition of a poltergeist was.
Gosh, because I was like, I feel like created a whole bunch of different ideas surrounding the paranormal. So it's interesting that they're like, aha, poltergeist.
Yeah, no, they're like,
Like,
that's
how
just
did they figure that out?
That's just a lucky guess.
Oh, this lady's telling me that Lorraine didn't see a spirit in the same way she normally does.
Oh, so she wasn't able to identify a human soul versus a non-human soul, so that's what she identified as a poltergeist?
Well, it's not even a human soul. She usually would see either a black mass in a human shape versus this like little skittery piece of energy. Does that make sense? Because that's what she's showing me.
Interesting.
So she was confused, Lorraine was, because she was like, it's not like a person, it's not like this solid thing, it's different.